video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller and it is a pleasure to have you along with me today, especially because that's right, we're getting another one out on a Monday. What a wonderful world this is. If you've never listened to the podcast before and you didn't get it from the title, it is a podcast about video games and we're going to try and inform you of everything that's gone down in the industry over the last 7 days or so. And I say we, because as always I'm joined by my man Sam Bishop. Sam, how are we doing today?
Doing very well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm disappointed in myself and upset because after having conversations with any of my friends and just the gaming community at large, and now your good self, it feels like I've completely missed the boat with Apex Legends already, even though it's only been out it's a week now, isn't it? It was last Monday it came out. Yes, it's been out a week.
Yeah, we recorded the podcast during when it was revealed, so we didn't actually know anything about it last week.
That's how we roll, baby. But yeah, ever since that's happened, everybody is, again, I said this to you a minute ago, the tagline and the headline that really gets me excited is, I don't like Battle Royale games, but I like this. And it's already up to 10 million players, which I understand when you compare it to Fortnite sounds ridiculous. But, let's look at it within the perspective of it itself. 10 million players in a week is pretty good. And you have to imagine it's kind of eaten into the fan base of, it's probably the poor PUBG. This was the other thing I was thinking about. I mean, I don't actually know because I don't play PUBG and I don't really look into the community. But certainly from an awareness point of view, PUBG just feels like that classic thing, we brought this to the dance and now we're being left behind. But that may not be true. That's just the impression that I get.
Yeah, it's I don't know about PUBG actually. It seems to be one of those ones because it's like you remember 2017, it was the talked about game. I think it's just fallen off as the most talked about. But it's one of those things like Pokemon Go is not talked about anymore, but that still is fine. It's healthy. When people say Pokemon Go died, it's like, no, you're just not hearing about it anymore.
Yeah, that's 100% right. You hit the nail on the head, which is why I always like to, caveat anything I say with I don't really. Socially, yes, it's died, but that means nothing from a financial point of view. Yeah. Anyway, that aside, Apex Legends, let's focus on that. I genuinely am going to play it. I'm going to try and play it before next week because I feel like we need to have a proper discussion about it whenever the next episode is. But you sound very keen on it. Just let me know. Why has it been able, seemingly to me anyway, kind of jab itself into this genre so quickly? Because usually it takes a little while. I know they've got EA back and their Respawn and people know who they are, but it seems to be far more successful than most would have been. I tell you what, the impressions I see, people seem far more keen about this than they do about Blackout, for example. I see a lot more love for this.
I think one of the biggest factors you got to consider is at the beginning of all this, when Apex Legends was announced, it was announced by Respawn, right? And Respawn is one of those developers it's sort of won the hearts of everyone because it feels like they're hard done by. I think I talked about this last week, but it feels like they're hard done by because Titanfall 1 was solid, but Titanfall 2 was so good and it was just shafted by being in between Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1. And everyone sort of feels like they're really good, but then they're a bit hard done by. And then Apex Legends came out and it's like, okay, cool, now we can get behind this developer. It's not exclusive. It's this free-to-play game. We can all support what we want. And because it's free-to-play, it's the excellent gunplay in Titanfall 2. I've not played it, but I'm going on what everyone else says. And then it's a free-to-play game. Everyone can get at the door. Everyone can experience this. And if you make something free-to-play, you also generate a bit of goodwill anyway, because it's like, okay, even if it is a bit unpolished, a bit jagged, you're sort of giving us this for free. It's not early access. You're just giving us this free-to-play game. And that is part of the appeal, I think, because it's just get people in the door. And also, it can't be understated that this is launched with very few issues. Sure, like I've heard people, and I've heard this as well, like occasionally I get boosted for the EA servers after a game, and then I try a few times and I get back in. But in terms of in the game, in terms of the polish, it's all there. And in an era, I don't want to be a guy like modern gaming, but like it is true. Like in this era, when you get a launch that is polished, proven, it's not early access, it's not asking for the community to fix the problems. You have a launch of a free-to-play game with very few technical issues. That is really, really good. And I think those are sort of one of the big reasons why it started so well. So yeah, that's sort of the start of where it went right. And then it got, 1 million players in 6 hours, 2.5 million in 24 hours, and then 10 million in 72 hours, which was like mad. And I think what they've done is they've done a really good marketing strategy, because I don't know if you saw, but they invited loads of streamers like Shroud and one of TSM's Fortnite players. They invited them all to go there and pretty much just say, oh yeah, we're playing Respawn's new game, it's a Battle Royale game. And everyone's like, hold up, this sounds really good. You've got all these big people here, all these people that they know from Fortnite, from PUBG, from everything. And yeah, they marketed that really well. And now these streamers are going off and playing that game. And it feels like it's been around it feels like I've only heard about Apex Legends for forever. And it's only been out a week. This time last week, I didn't know really what it was, other than a Battle Royale game. And yeah, they just got the publicity really right. They've got the marketing really right. And that's not even without talking about the game, which is actually really, really good mechanically. Have you heard much about what the mechanics of it are?
The main thing I know is, because I really wanted to play, I'm such an idiot for not to, but what I've gathered is that you play in teams of 3, and you take on, is it 60 people in total? But obviously each team are in a team of 3. That's kind of all I know outside. Obviously, the big thing that people focused on, like you said yourself, was just how good Respawn are at these kind of things, and they've taken that and adapted it for the battle royale genre. But otherwise, no, I don't know much. I would like to know more.
Yeah, so I'll provide. So basically, it's like, I hate saying this because it feels like I'm saying the game's unoriginal. It is a merging of so many different games that we've seen before, but it doesn't feel like a Frankenstein's monster sort of thing, because they own it so well. And it feels like it doesn't feel like, oh, this Blackout Overwatch hybrid. It feels like Apex Legends, which is an important thing. But it's got Overwatch in the sense that it has legends, which are heroes, which are characters.
Oh yeah, they got classes. Yes, I did know that too. Yeah.
Yes, but I think to class as a hero shooter will be doing it the horrible injustice, because it's not. They don't inform the gameplay and they don't change the core gameplay as much as they do in Overwatch. It's like Black Ops multiplayer, in the sense that it informs your abilities and your passive abilities and your ultimates. So you still go around, you still pick up the same guns, you still play the same as everyone else, but every now and then you get a ultimate, or you get an ability that you can use to help the team. And I think one of the biggest tests of how well they've done this is that I really struggle to choose each time, because each one has their own. You really want to have all of their abilities at once. And I think that just goes to show how good they've done it. Because I'm always like, oh, but I really want that ability. Oh, but I really want that guy's ability. Oh, but what if we need that guy's ability? And my favourite 4 so far, there's 8, 2 of which haven't unlocked yet, because you could either pay to unlock them, or you can unlock them with credits like Rainbow Six Siege. There's Bloodhound, which if you press L1, it detects nearby hostiles and puts them as a sort of. Do you remember on Splinter Cell Conviction when you got seen in the map, there was a little silhouette of where you were last seen?
Yeah, I love that.
It's like that, but you get that with enemies nearby.
Right.
So it's not really OP. And then his ultimate is you can see people in red for about a minute. So it's a recon hero. Then you get Lifeline, who on L1 gives you a healing drone and all your teammates, and also could drop care packages of really good loot every now and then. And then you've also got Gibraltar, who has a shield on his gun, so he's very hard to hit, reduces the surface area that you could hit, and also has airstrikes and stuff. And then there's also Pathfinder, which is more of a support role, because he can do zip lines and deploy zip lines to help help everyone get around the map, really. And you could also use search beacons to make sure that you know where the next circle is going to be. So each one has their own stuff they bring to the table, like supportive, attacking, recon, whatever. And that's all really tight mechanically. It's really well balanced. I don't think I've seen anyone not use a particular hero or legend, and then say another one's bad. Like, I think they're all really viable. And obviously the gunplay is really, really tight. There's some weapons which are trash, but they're meant to be right. You have the shit weapons that you don't want to pick up, but you have to use sometimes. And then you get the really good weapons. You pick up ammo, you pick up armor. It's much the same as Blackout, in the sense you pick up armor, you pick up attachments. It's almost exactly the same. I think that's most of it covered, but yeah, it's just, this all sounds very good on paper, but it's one of those things you really need to see, because like once you get a team going and you're like, oh yeah, whoever's lifeline, can you come over here with your healing drone, and then can you drop the care package, and then I'll do a zip line, and then we'll go up there, and then recon can like look around and stuff. It just works so well.
What does it take from Fortnite mainly? Because obviously, like you said, it's utterly established itself as its own brand by looking and borrowing, not necessarily borrowing, but being inspired from other games. But if you want to, I imagine they do want to tap into that Fortnite fan base. Is there anything that kind of comes across from that? And that's a weird question to ask, but I just being intrigued to see how people are using what is, the biggest battle royale game there is, and trying to implement that into their own world. Like, I'm not saying it's got dance emotes or anything like that, but is there even sort of small touches about how it clearly is hoping to take some of that pie?
Yeah, it's I think it sounds such a vague term. I think what it takes from Overwatch and Fortnite really well is the personality. Like Blackout for me is just it's like almost tech demo in the sense that it's a very functional battle royale, but there's sort of not much else. I think the reason why people like Fortnite, and obviously why kids like Fortnite, is because it's got so much going for it behind the scenes. It's not just really about shooting your fellow man until they die and until you win. It's about all these really wacky game modes you can do, all these emotes you can do, all these fun things you can do. And the same with Overwatch. People love the heroes, people get attached to them, and here you've got these legends as well, and they speak all the time. I would argue, if I was Respawn, that you turn down how much they talk, because when you're like, because there's a ping system, so you can ping anything. If you ping a door, it says, oh, we should look this way, or if you ping a helmet, it's like helmet level 2 here, just with R1. But every time you do that, they don't think you need that much like actual talking in your multiplayer games personally. But each character has their own personality already. It's like Overwatch. There's a Russian-German sort of dude. I can't really pin him down. Gibraltar, I don't know what nationality he is. I would probably say sort of maybe New Zealand. Then you've got the Caribbean Lifeline. And there's just all these different personalities, all these different voices that give a lot of flavour to it. And then you have the cosmetics, obviously, which are the same as Fortnite. You don't none of the microtransactions are pay to win, but you get skins for your characters. You get quips. Like in Overwatch, you get like victory lines and stuff like that. You get poses and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it, really. It's just got a lot of the flavour that Fortnite and Overwatch has, which I think is the sort of key to getting people on board and keeping them there.
Overwatch meets Fortnite is not a bad way to sell your video game, is it? I mean, that makes a lot of sense. What terms of, I know you mentioned some a minute ago, but what are all the sort of monetary options? Like, what can you buy with actual money?
What you could buy is, so every time you level up, you get what's called an Apex pack, which is a loot box, a loot crate. So you get three items. You either get a currency or a skin or a weapon skin or something like that. And you could buy either Apex packs or you could buy specific. I'm pretty sure you could buy the specific items you want. So yeah, it's basically that. It's very expensive, I would say. I think that's the only criticism I've seen leveled at the game. But I mean, I'm sort of a bit like, can you criticize it if they're saying, oh, you could pay for these skins, if you know what I mean? You could pay for the heroes, the legends, the extra legends. But again, I don't think the game is at the point where those two legends are. It's like Siege. I think Siege, nobody would complain about the ones being locked off because they're not like the better ones. So yeah, you can spend real money and they're quite expensive, but I'm perfectly fine not to. And I'm really enjoying the fact that I can, every time I open an Apex pack, it's like, oh, cool, I've got this skin. That's really cool. I didn't know that existed, sort of thing.
Yeah. So at no point you felt the need to drop any cash or anything?
No, you don't need to, but I think it's one of those things like if you really are invested, you will. But again, obviously not your choice and you're not being railroaded towards it.
Yeah. It's always interesting because no one's moaned about it, basically, as weird as that sounds. But when no one moans about it, you start thinking, okay, they must have done something right because nobody has no other problem with it.
I don't even think people moan about Fortnite's ones. And
no, they don't at all. No.
Yeah, obviously that's one of the biggest games out there. And with microtransactions, you usually get at least some people doing that. But no, nobody complains about Fortnite either. So I think they've hit the real sweet spot there.
No, totally. What about working in teams of 3? Obviously, you've mentioned how that can... Obviously, it makes it how it feels different. But if somebody is like well used to playing a battle royale game by yourself, I know you can do it in teams of certain amounts in other games, but given that is how it's set up at the moment, do you think? I'm not saying that it helps or it is a detriment, but do you think it just allows it to kind of stamp its own uniqueness onto the genre, and that's another reason people are flocking towards it? Because it's like, you can play with your friends. There's absolutely a reason to try and do that. But on top of that, it doesn't feel... You can probably get something from the app Fortnite. So it's not like... To me, when people were playing PUBG or Fortnite, you didn't have to choose, but it certainly felt like you didn't really need to play both. Whereas Apex Legends sounds like it takes inspiration from other games, so that if you want to jump between the two, you're not going to feel like you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, it sounds... When I first heard about this ping system, because they were like, oh yeah, it's really good for playing with people you don't know, I was like, okay, because a lot of people tried to do this. This is like, you can, press up to say, oh, group on me or whatever. It's been a multiplayer game for ages, but nobody really uses it because it's really just like, unless you have a mic, communication is not good online. But the ping system not only really helps when you're with people, because you could be like, oh, on my ping there's enemies. Like if you double tap R1, it gives an enemy indicator, and if you just tap R1, it indicates wherever you want to go, like whether it's a place on the map or we should look in this loot container or whatever. So that is really good. But also when you're say if you're a solo player and you're in a group with other solo players, you could be like indicating, I can see my teammate hasn't got a level 2 shield, let me just ping that for him, and they come across. It's super easy, and it's just amazing for like indicating where danger is. And obviously in Fortnite, this is actually a really good example, because I went to play Fortnite just after playing Apex Legends, and I went to my friend, oh yeah, can you ping him? And I was like, oh shit, there's no ping system. And I think that just goes to show like how instantly I was like ingrained into this feature. It felt like a core feature that I needed to have, and it's amazing. And then so I think that's why solo play isn't that bad. Obviously you'd rather have the comms, and you can't, as far as I can tell, you can't say when you need something, if you know what I mean. So you can say, you can point to stuff and be like, this is where something is, but if you need like, I don't know, a health pack or something, there's no prompt for that. So I think it could do with a bit of expanding, but yeah, it's really functional and really well designed for those who want to jump in, even though which I think it needed to, because if you're forcing people to be in a group, you need to make sure that that's good team play anyway. But yeah, 3 is a bit of a random number. A lot of people are calling for solos and duos and squads or whatever, but I think it's sort of been designed with that in mind. So because the map's quite small, so you need people to drop together. So yeah, I think for now it's only going to be 3.
Yeah, I kind of like that though, because in the future, if you feel like you've hit a plateau or you need a bit of a boost, then sure, look at doing otherwise. But if you've come up with all these ideas that are based on 3 and it's working, it's only been out a week, there's no need to jump on that bandwagon straight away. I forgot about all the communication stuff too. That's the other thing that people were talking about, is how it's just, again, the simple system makes it so much easier, to the point that you don't even have to talk to each other if you don't want, which is really, really good, because like you said, it's so intuitive. When you jump back into another game that doesn't have it, it felt weird it wasn't there. So yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about that. Yeah,
because of Fortnite, they were like, yeah, they're at 340. I was just like, oh, can you just ping them? Like, this would be so much easier if you could just ping them. So to be fair, like if Apex is taking inspiration from other games, I can see why a lot of people be like, actually, we might put a ping system in ours then. It could be a mutually beneficial arrangement.
There you go, right? That's innovation. That's innovation in a video game. So I'll be intrigued. Do you think it's so good that somebody, I'm not saying that Fortnite, do you think Epic would ever go, oh man, we got to try and squeeze this into our game now? Is that good that we're going to be left behind? Or not left behind, but we're going to sort of have a massive hole if we don't try and fill it. It's a weird way to put it, but I take it.
No, I don't think it's that massive, but it's one of those things like when it's like when you go play, it's a horrible example, but like Skyrim, but then you go back to Oblivion, like it's still playable, but there's some sort of quality of life stuff that you're just like, actually I could really do with this. It's not going to break your experience, because you can still call out people easily, but it's just you don't realize how a good ping system can help you until you're like, oh, okay, sweet, just come in, ping someone, there you go, he's just over in the ping, go get him, sort of thing. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention is you drop in 3s, as in like there's what's called a jump master. And so that jump master drops, and then the people drop alongside him, and they're locked to that position unless you press a button to go off on your own. So you all drop together at the same point by default, which is really good.
That's ridiculous. See, it's these little things that, allow you to make all the difference if you're trying to break your way into a new world. I like it. I think it sounds great. And the amount of goodwill and good love for it, I think, is ridiculous. You never get that when a game comes out, especially not in that genre. That genre, from a social media point of view, seems toxic in many ways. Like, people just jump down its throat, especially because Fortnite fans absolutely love it. But this is the one, to me, that sounds like could spark it off again. I do find it crazy they've released this bare weeks before Battlefield's one comes out. To me, this one sounds more interesting, more unique, and Battlefields is going to be, like you said, a bit like Blackout, which is what we've just tried to incorporate into the systems we already have.
This is dedicated battle royale. It's not. It took the place of Titanfall 3. Like it is not it's not a battle royale mode. Like, it is battle royale dedicated, which shows. And I think that this is the example that you need to. If you're going to do battle royale, you need to do it with this level of care and attention. I think that's only going to be a good thing for EA and Respawn.
I totally agree. There you go. I mean, if you hadn't seen enough praise anyway, there is some first-hand praise. I honestly have not heard one negative thing about Apex Legends so far, aside from kind of the few, well, we could do this and we could do that. And absolutely the whole, given the servers aren't screwing too many people over and it's only... Because how many times does that happen? If anything, you just expect it, don't you? Like you said, if a new game comes out, it's like, well, we have to give it a few weeks to calm down, but... I think it's great. I think they've got
the servers all the time right now. They could do with sorting that, but it's never like I'm never stopped from playing. It's just a little bit of a 5-minute delay or something.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
Well, there you go. Apex Legends is out now. You can download it for free. It's on PC as well, right? Or is it just Xbox and PlayStation? It is PC. Yeah, cool. It would have to be. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what's going to go. I'm going to make sure I've played it before next week so we can see if the love continues. And given that it is free to play. And look, if you never liked a Battle Royale game, but you liked Overwatch, or you like a hero shooter, I know it's not 100% in that, but obviously it has its toe dipped in a little bit. Maybe it's worth playing. Maybe this is the game that turns more people onto it and that genre continues to grow. I was waiting for it. I assumed there would be another game that came along that picked it all back up again. I guess because we didn't know this was coming, everyone just assumed it is potentially going to be Call of Duty or Battlefield, but that's not the case. And Apex Legends, and hopefully this is the game that actually smashes down on Respawn as well. And like you say, gives them the reason to stand up a bit more proud, whatever you want to say. Have you played anything else this week, Sam, or was that it?
That's been it, really. It's not been constant, but yeah, it's kept me hooked enough. It's one of those games where you're like, oh, fuck this game at the end of the game. And then you're like, okay, let's go back in, Oh, yeah. It's really got like the hooks in me, as you like to say. So...
Oh, there we go. Apex Legends out now on everything. I haven't played it, obviously, because it's just been in preview rounds. There's loads of previews for the Lego Movie 2 video game. So, I mean, the movie comes out, I think, this week or next week or soon. So if you're interested in that, I just couldn't see it. I saw it everywhere. It comes out the end of the month. So I was like, look, if people want to talk about that, it is absolute. To me, I watched some footage. It's a Lego video game. I don't want to try and destroy people's hopes and dreams, but to me, the Lego video games ran out of steam a long time ago. I loved them, and I remember playing Lego Star Wars now, which I played when I was still in university. So that was almost, well, I'm not even going to say, a long time ago.
PS2?
It was on PS2, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And it was a really, really good game. But to me, and I haven't played this one, so I'm sure it could be different. But to me, you picked your favourite license, and then you played the Lego video game version around that. But then you'd never played another one because there was no point. That's kind of how I saw it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the same, and it's one of those things like I find it the hardest to talk about because like even if you like them, it's just like it's a Lego version of this of X, insert brand here, and they're all great, and you know what you're getting, but it's really hard to distinguish the different ones apart.
Yeah, exactly that. So anyway, that's out too. Other little things I wanted to talk about. This made me laugh. Red Dead Redemption is back at number 1 in the charts, which I understand. It's not like we're drowning in new video games at the moment, but that is quite the feat, given that it already sold an incredible amount of copies. And here we are in early to mid-February, and it's managed to climb its way back up to the top of the mountain. I mean, that is not too shabby to say that. I can't even imagine what the numbers would be now. I just know that Rockstar's made a lot of money.
Well, I think Take-Two revealed that as of December 31st, I think it sold 23 million copies. So that's pretty tasty. And like, I would have thought either Kingdom Hearts 3 or Resident Evil 2 would have kept it off the top. But like you say, it just is a monster. And Grand Theft Auto is a number 10. So like, who's buying Grand Theft Auto 5? I don't get who is out there like, I need Grand Theft Auto 5.
Who hasn't? If you're that desperate to play it, what are you waiting for? That's what I don't get. I don't understand who's still buying it. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
No.
But yeah, it just Rockstar. It wasn't a huge crowd, but there was always some people like, oh, what they're making Red Dead for? They should focus on GTA. Rockstar can do whatever they want. I mean, I don't think they're going to fall out of this Grand Theft Auto Red Dead cycle for a while, because obviously, what was their racing game called? I always forget it. I always go, I'm going to look it up in case you don't know. Can you remember what it's called? Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was called something social.
No, they had table tennis. Do you remember that?
I loved that game. I loved that game so much.
I was more confused. Like, Rockstar, what?
But it was so good. I love I love tennis games anyway. And that, oh man, I tell you, man, you have no idea how much I like Rockstar table tennis. Midnight Club, that was Rockstar's racing game.
Was it Rockstar? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Rockstar. But the weird thing with Midnight Club, I'm going to say, and I'm going to check this because I don't want, yeah, Midnight Club it is. I would put Max Payne in there to a certain degree too, although obviously that's a little bit different. But this is why I think they'll stay in the cycle for a while. Max Payne was great, and Midnight Club was a decent racing game, but they never had the impact that these two games have had. And that's not me saying that Rockstar don't know what they're doing. I'm saying they absolutely do know what they're doing, but they've stumbled across such huge success. I don't see why they would stop. So as far as I'm concerned, I imagine we get Grand Theft Auto 6 in 2022, maybe 2021, if we're lucky, probably not 2022, and then we'll get Red Dead again in 2026. That's what I think we're going to get, and I'm all right with it because they seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, if something is making you like, I don't know, billions and billions of dollars, why would you be like, oh, I will deviate from this? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense, and it's still high quality. It's not like they're just pumping out low effort stuff every 4 years. Like they're still making great quality stuff, and yeah, there's no way they're going to depart from that.
Can you imagine how much money it makes them? Can you imagine? I can't even fathom it. I tell you what is interesting though, and we can try. I don't know what they do with Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, like I need to tell Rockstar what they need to do. But I remember playing Grand Theft Auto 5 saying, this is a masterpiece of a video game. But what are they going to do next? Because it does feel like, I'm not saying that it's been based on the same template for a while, because it's not. They add too much stuff in. But I imagine they've got, let me rephrase this. I think Rockstar probably have some idea for when that one comes out. Aside from the size of the world, the way it looks, I imagine they'll have something. Because usually They plant something in Red Dead you don't even notice, and they innovate on that, and it comes out in Grand Theft Auto. You're like, wow, that's incredible. I think that's what I hope for. I just hope the GTA 6 has something I'm really not expecting.
Yeah, it seemed like GTA 5 was just like, the archetype, the open world game. This is what open world games been building towards. That was what Grand Theft Auto 5 was. And unless you sort of make it but bigger, I don't really see what they can do. And if they do make it sort of another Grand Theft Auto game, it'll be like, okay, cool.
But
they'll still sell masses, obviously.
That's it, isn't it? But I think they're more than that. Like, it's not, Rockstar aren't, I don't know. I can't actually think of a pop star that sucks, but everybody buys their records. But they're not that kind of. But she's, I would agree with you, but also I can see her talent, so it's difficult for me.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. But people know what I'm referring to. That's not what Rockstar are, and there are some naysayers out there that like to pretend that's exactly what they are. Like, it's not. The reason they're the best, or at least they're so successful, is because their games change the world, like they just did, and they always find a way to innovate. And that's what I really think they'll do with Grand Theft Auto 6. But when I look at GTA 5, I'm like, how do you even do it? Especially when it's that kind of weird balance where you don't have to, but I think you want to. And they certainly did it in Red Dead, actually, didn't they? I mean, Red Dead is a very, very bizarre game in terms of what you'd expect a video game to be. So,
yeah.
We'll find out. So yeah, that's back at number 1, which just made me laugh when I saw it. Talking about selling as well, obviously Resident Evil 2 Remake has come out, and this always happens. It turns out that the best-selling entry in that franchise is still Resident Evil 5. And that made me very happy, because that's my favourite one. Controversy aside, which obviously was bad, in terms of mechanics, and in terms of, that was my favourite one. Mostly because at the end of it, you got that unlimited Magnum, and you could run around. But yeah, they came out and just said that Resident Evil 5 has sold 7.4 million units across the PlayStation 3, PC, and Xbox 360, which means it is still the best-selling entry in the survival horror franchise to date. And the fact that I think your reaction kind of sums it up. Why did that surprise you? I mean, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard got to 6.1, and I imagine that Resident Evil 2 will smash it, given it's already pretty much at 5 million. But why did you just think that 4 would be in there? Just because obviously 4, talking about Rockstar, changed the world?
I don't know. I thought it would be 2 or 7 really, because it was one of those ones where the 2 had the big old like following because it's old basically, and then Resident Evil 7 was so different. I think it piqued people's curiosity, but I think probably 5 is probably explained by the fact that everyone played 4 and that was sick, and then they sort of like, oh yeah, 5, we got to get 5 now, and then it was sort of like, not that it's terrible, but at the time they bought it, they're like, oh okay, it's not exactly the same as 4. So I think if it had come anywhere else other than after 4, maybe we wouldn't be talking about it with these numbers, personally.
I think you're 100% right. In fact, I think you are right, because Resident Evil 4 made such a splash that there was actual sort of real excitement for the sequel, and it came out and everybody flocked out to buy it. I do think it's a good game, though. Like, again, I understand the controversy, and I agree with it, but in terms of its mechanics, I mean, not Sheva or Shivo, I can't remember the partner's name. That was a bit of a mistake. But the sheer shooting mechanic of that game I found incredibly satisfying. And you got to beat that boulder up at the end. That was always fun, when you just punch that boulder to death and nobody really knows why.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah, mash square to destroy boulder is something to do with a helicopter and lava. I don't know. Resident Evil games don't make any sense at the best of times. But I did like it. I don't know what... Resident Evil 6 didn't even come up in that conversation. But that's interesting as well, though, because you have to look at that as well. If Resident Evil 5 sold so well, maybe the reception wasn't as good, because Resident Evil 6 doesn't even barely get a mention. Although it didn't review very well either. Who knows? But yeah, you can put that down as well. This is probably going to be confirmed later on. I think their conference call or their finance call is some point today. But there is a rumor going around that Activision is about to lay off a lot of staff, which obviously sucks. Yeah, nobody ever wants to see that, but I would presume it's because of all the Destiny separation with Bungie. I imagine there's just a lot of people within the Activision setup that are affiliated with that game, and now they don't know what to do with them.
Well, I think Bloomberg published a report, and it was just like, because their share price has been dropping, and I think there's just been a lot of problems behind the scenes because they had a big old restructuring, loads of executive noon around and stuff like that. So I think they're just trying to... I think it is purposefully like restructuring the company to try and boost profits. So if that is the case, or reportedly, then yeah, I think that's what it is, because they've just been struggling for a while from the sounds of it. Obviously, like Bungie doesn't help taking their franchise with them, but they did say that Forsaken really didn't perform as well as they wanted it to. So I think that was a bit mutual.
Well, so there's actually rumours out there that, even so, reports that actually Activision are a company is struggling.
Activision Blizzard, yeah, are struggling, yeah.
But that makes no sense. They're like,
I mean, yeah, their share price has dipped 10%. They dipped 2.5% on Friday alone. So,
I did not know that. That is. It blows my brain. Because I mean, again, it was rumored, but I remember when the rumor used to go around. In the bank, they had $4 billion just waiting there to do whatever they want with. I mean, that sounded like something that somebody made up on Reddit. But my point being, they were so successful. A part of me was like, well, I could probably, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't sound too out of the realms of possibility. Well,
yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, where it's hard to determine, because we don't know their margins of success. They're probably not bankrupt, is the point. But you don't know what constitutes success for them, and you don't know what, because it's not as simple as just not having a lot of money. It might be just they're restructuring because things aren't performing as well as they'd like. So now Overwatch player numbers are sort of flat at the moment. So it might be just a case of boosting things a bit further rather than they're actually in trouble as such. Because trouble implies something different.
No, it's true. That's fair. But it still sucks, obviously. And
jobs gets cut. That's really
that's never good. And I see some people, idiots on the internet, going, "Oh, good, fuck Activision." Well, no, it's not Activision. It's Darren and Sarah that work in accounts that you have to think about. So, but it'll be interesting. I think it will see a change, because lots of people have said that Activision's model is really weird. They kind of rely on Call of Duty. I guess they've been relying on Overwatch for a little bit. I mean, I guess World of Warcraft fits into that. But otherwise, Activision don't... I mean, Destiny obviously was their other big game, but they don't overly release a lot of games anymore. You know, they used to sort of crap stuff out all the time, but they don't. They've really doubled back on that. So I'll be intrigued to see how that changes.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see that as well.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. There's rumors going around that I think it's 100% that Nintendo are doing a direct next week. But the rumors are that there is going to be news on the Metroid Prime trilogy, which is interesting because, you know, when Metroid Prime 4 got killed, everyone said that got killed too. So maybe that's why they've stuck it in there to go, no, that's literally not connected at all. And somewhat bizarrely, that Mario Maker 2 is going to be announced.
Yeah.
Now, that to me is a baffling thing, because and this is the same thing with Little Big Planet in many ways. I understand that technology moves forward, and I understand that you've probably come up with new ideas since you've made it. But shouldn't Mario Maker be like a Netflix? Shouldn't that be the model? Like, what on earth?
That is exactly what I was going to say. If any game needed to be a Super Mario Maker Deluxe and then make it as a service on Switch, that's what. It doesn't need to be a sequel. Why does it need to be a sequel? Well, it is as a sandbox like Minecraft. Like Minecraft 2 doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense either. I don't know. It's got to be just to get it on Switch. That's the only thing I can think of.
But that, if you want to call it Mario Maker Switch, that's fine. Or like you said, Mario Maker Deluxe, that's fine. But if they call it Mario Maker 2. I'd be like, you have absolutely screwed. This should have been a platform because, the tools for making a Mario game, as Mario Maker proved, that you probably could have done that on the GameCube or even the Nintendo 64. It would have been a bit harder, but it didn't really feel to me like technology was the thing that was holding us back. And yet now... Oh, I don't know. Again, we don't know if this is true. It's speculation. It's rumor. But 99% of the time, there's a reason. There's no smoke without fire. But I just think that'd be such a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Such a waste of an idea. When I wasn't as enamored with Mario Maker as I was hoping, because that's the game that kind of made me realize I don't really want to make my own games. I want somebody else to make a game for me that I can play. It's like I've been watching all the things that people can make in dreams, and I'm blown away by it. I'm like, man, you're really, really talented. Do I want to spend my time doing that? I don't. Like, I just don't. So I would have to wait and see. And look, I could be completely wrong. They could come up with something I go, wow, that's incredible. Like, how did they never think of that before? But if this is just a way to squeeze Mario Maker onto the Switch, and look, it's great for the Switch, right? Portable machine. It's really fun. The original game was a lot of fun too. Some people came up with some crazy levels that were hard, but just don't over-egg it, I guess is my point. I think there's better ways to use your time and better ways to use your money. But what do I know? I'm not in charge of a really successful company, but it shocked me. It just shocked me. I don't need Mario Maker 2. And what if Mario Maker 2 is the game they were talking about last week and they said they got a Delight coming out? That's not a delight. Yeah. That's not a delight. That's not going to delight fans. I don't even think... I'm looking it up now. Did Mario Maker even sell that well? I don't even know. Does anybody know?
I can't imagine it would have, to be honest. But then again, it's Mario, so...
I'm relying on Wikipedia for this. It sold not amazingly well. Sales in the United States reached 1 million in mid-January 2016. So, although it was on Wii U, wasn't it? Nothing sold well on Wii U. So you can't. No, there wasn't.
That's what I mean. It should be. If it is kind of Switch, it should be new Mario Maker Deluxe or whatever. They should just do that and then make it a platform to build on. That's in my opinion.
I totally agree. And also, this kind of flew under my radar. I'm sure some people picked up on it. Members of the Telltale development team have a new venture called Ad-hoc Studios, and you'll be surprised to hear they're going to make interactive narrative games.
No way.
That makes sense. But given all the hoo-ha about when they went down, the rightful hoo-ha as well, I'm not saying that it was bad, but that surprised me a lot. I thought people would have made a bigger deal out of it. It's nice to see that they've fallen on their... I'm not sure it's not all of them, but at least some of them have fallen on their feet. And also, like I said, there's still a market for that kind of video game. It just probably needed a bit of a kick up the ass in some sense.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It needs... I think if anything was going to provide a kick up the arse, it would be like the closure of the studio. Like, this new venture needs to do something different. And yeah, I just hope it's like comes back fighting and not just another Telltale game, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hopefully they learn as well not to splash all the cash on licenses too. I got it at the time, but the one that really opened my eyes is when I played, which one was it? The Game of Thrones. And it just was like, this is not, this hasn't been built around the Game of Thrones license at all. It's just
felt
been
like a cash in.
It did, and that sounds really horrible, I know, but it did. It sounded like we haven't actually come up with an idea here. We've just thought, well, we could get the Game of Thrones license because Game of Thrones is massive, and then we'll take it from there. And I don't necessarily think that's the way you want to do it. Again, you could have got The Walking Dead. I understand why they bought The Walking Dead, because it was popular at the time, and I'm sure it turned a lot of people onto Telltale. But you could make that game. There was nothing synonymous with The Walking Dead that went into that. You could absolutely have made that with new characters and a new world, a new environment, and put zombies in it. I don't think The Walking Dead helped with that massively. My point is, I think there's enough talent there, especially if they come up with new innovative ways to make games, that you don't necessarily have to worry about having a license slapped on the end of it. Yeah, I mean, it is hard now because they're not Telltale anymore. It's a bit messy, but Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's one of those things that surprised me. Something that made me crack up was the fact that you may have known about this, Sam. I didn't. Capcom are releasing a Monster Hunter film directed by Paul W.S. Anderson next year. What?
Yep.
What? How?
Mila Jovovich, is that what her name is?
Is it? I know nothing.
It's the Resident Evil woman.
That's right. Yeah, Mila Jovovich is in it. Yes, and Ron Perlman's in it. Like, what the hell is this movie? And also, does Mila Jovovich just make movies based on games now? Because she was in all the Resident Evil ones as well, right?
Like the Capcom person.
Yeah, so Capcom just rings her up and goes,
"Look, on speed dial for everything."
That's so weird. That is so weird. But look,
yeah, I knew it was announced last year, and then we got a release date recently for next year. But it's one of those films that are just like, this is going to be exactly what it says on the tin, just a big old shootout, bombastic Michael Bay sort of just killing monsters in CGI for 2 hours, which is what everyone wants, surely, I guess, for Monster Hunter fans. I'm not a Monster Hunter fan, but yeah.
Bizarre. When's the Sonic movie out? This year?
I think it's December.
Hang on, I'm looking it up. It is this year. Oh my gosh, it is. What a strange 12 months. And there's an animated Mario movie coming out as well, which I didn't know about.
Is there?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up as well. Like, I saw
there's a Ni no Kuni movie coming out, which has just been announced, which I'm very excited for.
Is there?
Yeah.
Who's making that?
It is Level 5, so it's the same people.
Well, I guess that makes sense, actually, right? Doesn't it? So the Mario movie, if this page will ever load, is. Does it have I think it has a release date. No, it doesn't. But it is being 2022, and it's in development. It's in development, and yeah, it's going to be animated. So,
strange.
I know there's a lot of. It feels like this always happens in waves, doesn't it? I wouldn't put Monster Hunter in this because I think Capcom do their own thing. But given that Sonic and Mario are both now moving back into the film world, I imagine you're probably going to see more of that. I mean, they say the Gears of War movie's still being worked on. I don't know how much I believe that. I feel like you've missed the boat entirely, but,
nobody needs to see that. We needed to see it in 2007, but we don't need to see it.
I mean, in minimum 2012, right? Like, then it was like, we definitely need to, apparently it's still being worked on. I don't believe it. I think, to me, if you're going to make a video game today, just make a Fortnite video game. Literally, just make a Fortnite video game. There's no point making a video game by anyone else. But look, I saw that. It made me chuckle. And I should also probably mention, given that I meant to tell you everything, is that Total War 3 Kingdoms also got delayed till May. Now, the reason I say it like that is I don't even know when it was meant to come out. Oh, I do now, 7th of March. Okay, that is quite a sizable delay then. Fair enough. And look, the reason I bring it up, I like to cover everything, but also Total War does have a crazy fan base. Like, proper intense, as I found out once when I made a video way back in my video gamer days when I fell asleep playing it, which was a joke. But then people thought it was real, and that was it. I was dead, and they all came after me. But I still love you all. I also just found out, literally by scrolling through my notes, I don't remember writing this one. Angry Birds has a VR game?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Why? What, is Angry Birds even a thing anymore? Surely not.
Yeah, I think it still attracts people. I think it still attracts the old kiddlywinks.
Wow, look at that. Angry Birds, Isle of Pigs.
Yeah,
I'm watching it now. Well, there you go. Who knew?
Going back to films, did you know that Ben Affleck has been taken off of the Batman film entirely?
I did. Yes, I saw. Okay. So they announced the next standalone film for next year,
called The Batman.
The Batman, and Affleck obviously did that tweet where he basically underlined that he's not coming back, and I think. I actually think Ben Affleck would have been better behind the camera than in front of it for that stuff, because I actually quite like Ben Affleck films. I think he's a good actor too. I just think he's a good Batman. But I said the stuff he's directed and written, like Argo especially, is a really good movie. So I think he could have come.
Hunting.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right, he doesn't, and The Town too. I swear he did that one as well. Like, these are great films. I think he could have made a great Batman movie, but
yeah.
The problem was that, again, because he's Ben Affleck, people wanted to put him in front of the camera, and that's where it was the beginning of the end, because we should have gone the other way and put him behind it. But, I think it's good. I think that kind of the DC universe in terms of films has fallen off a cliff anyway, other than Aquaman that did well. Obviously, Wonder Woman's really good. But it just depends on what they want to do. I mean, it's already mental, because we're getting 2 different Joker films with 2 different actors, and you're just like, because you've got... what's his name? Joaquin Phoenix, obviously doing the standalone one, and then you've got the guy. What's his stupid name? That's in the band. Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. So straight away, like, what are you doing? This is so weird.
Such a bizarre, fragmented sort of approach.
I know. I don't see how that. yeah, I don't see how that helps anything. So, yeah, it's very, very strange. But no, I think it's probably for the best. It never really worked out as they intended it to. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully those movies go back to what they were when Christopher Nolan was smashing it. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, do you care for the Batman film, Sam?
I do like Batman. It's sort of lost a lot of weight since I've sort of become numb and dead inside to it ever since The Dark Knight Rises, because it was just like Batman vs Superman just didn't really just generate any fire. I didn't even hate it that much. It's just like, ugh, is this Batman now? Is this what this is? So,
I told someone the twist in that the other day about how they make up because both their mums are called Martha.
So funny.
And she said to me, not really, like about 9 times. Like, really, yes, really, yes, really. I mean, what was that? What was that? To this day, I can't believe that made it through not only like an editing room, but got onto a big screen. I mean...
Yeah. I don't understand, because it must have just been a writing, just like, how do we get them to be friends? It's a pretty big rift. And it's like, keep it simple, yeah.
Dear.
Yeah. Very misguided.
Yeah, I don't know. It genuinely baffles my brain. Okay, that's all the news for this week. What a way to end, just dumping all over Batman versus Superman. I did ask for some questions. I've got a few, so we'll ask them now because everyone liked it last week, so we'll just do a few. Ryan says, The Division 2 is out soon. Do you care about it at all? Well, I don't. Those type of games are not really for me. However, I do know it has a huge following, and Ubisoft are seemingly putting a lot of time and attention into it. I think they had the beta recently as well. There was news today, actually, that it's getting an open beta soon too, so I don't think you do that stuff for a game that people don't care about. But no, it's like Destiny for me. I just don't really like this kind of games. They don't sink their teeth in enough.
Yeah, I think that and Anthem are sort of, I think, having to do better with the end game content and get more of a lifetime out of it, because I think people have just gotten bored of that service that Destiny offered. I think that people got bored with. So if they do, I'm going to sort of wait with not with Anthem, but I'm going to wait with The Division, see what happens with it. And if people are just like, I'm bored after like 10 hours, then I'll be like, okay, fine, I'm not getting it. But I'm open to it being good. I'm hoping it's good.
No, I'd like it to be good, but even then, it's just those setup of those games. I need more story these days. I'm just that guy. I need a really good story. If I don't have a good story, I struggle to play things nowadays, because that's what I'm like. Which is why I go play mobile games, because they only take me 30 seconds to do, and we just move on from there. It's true. It's terrible. That's what I've become. Jeremy says, "What's the deal with the Xbox One or Microsoft and the lack of exclusives? Do you think that's going to get better anytime soon?" Well, they got Crackdown, which comes out next week. Outside of that, I have a tiny feeling that maybe Microsoft they've done well with the Xbox One, but maybe they think they're going to hold off all their big guns until their next console and then sort of, push it harder.
Yeah, I don't know. They've got the initiative that's hired like loads of industry veterans, but we have no idea what they're working on. So that looks really interesting, but we're not going to see any big stuff from Microsoft for ages, like actual reality.
And that's the thing, yeah, that's what I mean. I think they may have just drawn a line on the Xbox One now and said, look, we've done what we've done. I imagine the Xbox One X is still selling because people like stuff in 4K. But I mean, and what even exclusives do they have to announce? I mean, Gears, yeah, fine, but that's not as exciting because it's been around for so long. I mean, 2005? 2005 was when the first one came out, right? Or 2007, whatever. So it's about 15 years. I mean, that's a long time. It's the law of diminishing returns. That's always going to happen. And outside of that, Crackdown. Well, Forza's doing fine, but it's aimed at a very specific audience these days.
Forza's not open wide, really. It's not one of those ones that attracts loads of people to your console.
No, they need a God of War, and they need a Spider-Man. That's what they need. They need games like that are exciting. Spider-Man, great idea, because it's just a big franchise, and God of War reimagining a classic. That's what they should do with Gears of War, really. They should come up with a new way to pitch it. Maybe they will with Gears 5. I don't know, but, I'm holding all judgment for Gears 5 at the moment because I don't know what they're going to do with it. I know that I'm not as big a fan as I once was. That's all I know. Rachel says, have you ever played a Pokemon game? And if so, which one's your favourite? I asked because I've always tried to get into them, but I've never been able to do so. Do you know what? I've never tried to play a Pokemon game. Isn't that bad? Doesn't that make me
I don't think so. I think it's like It's not for everyone because it is very grindy. People don't really realize that because everyone associates Pokemon with cute and cuddly monsters, but it is grindy as well. Like, it's hidden grindy, like hidden numbers games. Like
hidden grindy.
It's like hidden that grindiness behind all the Pikachus and the cuddliness and the loveliness. But yeah, I've played the middle part of Red like 10 times just because you get to a point where your Pokemon are underleveled and you just have to grind them up and just like, can't be bothered. Really, just can't be asked.
It's true, right? I don't like leveling up. It's like I can't play Final Fantasy games anymore. Like, you have to really, really grind away, and I don't want to grind unless you're going to come up with something that has a really, really good gameplay mechanic. But even then, I don't think it serves that well. Like, when I think about that, the sort of the best gameplay mechanic I played in ages was Doom's sort of wash, rinse, repeat. But if I was doing that just to grind up, I think I'd lose patience with it. I think I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with grinding. Alice says, what do you know about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice? That's the new game by the Dark Souls.
It's the new Dark Souls, yeah.
Yes, is that not all we need to know? Isn't that the be all and end all? It's going to be really hard. It's going to piss a lot of people off, but the people that love it will love it, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. There's a few more. I think there's just a few more like format changes, just to like skill trees and systems and stuff. But like I said, I'm not into those games anymore, so I've not kept up with Sekiro, I had to say, or Sekiro, whatever.
A lot of people are excited about it. Like, every time.
Enough.
Yeah,
if it's
absolutely.
2013, I would have been.
Absolutely, but it's not. Again, I have a long history with those games and just ragging all over them. And I got to the point now where I try and be positive. I try not to hate. So yeah, I just leave it be. But no, I'm sure it'd be fine. I'm sure it'd be exactly what people want. I think that team's already proven that they can do that outside of the Dark Souls universe. Bloodborne was a perfect example of that. So yeah, I don't imagine that it will. I imagine it will do very well, and it will speak exactly to the people. The people that it's meant to speak to. So we will see. We will see what happens with that. James says, I know a Respawn just launched Apex Legends, but do you think another Titanfall game will come out possibly before the end of the year?
Yes.
Oh, do you?
Yes, because they said that they're working on something Titanfall related.
Oh, right.
It's not going to be Titanfall 3 because they've said that they're not working on Titanfall 3 because what was Titanfall 3 as a concept turned into Apex Legends. But then they said they're working on something Titanfall related in that universe that's coming out before the end of 2019. So.
All right. So I can't even think
mobile RTS games because we all have mobiles, right?
You have to pay like £10 a time to play. That'll piss everybody off. I didn't know that. Okay, well, that would be interesting, man. Maybe this is the year where Respawn comes flying back with all the power in the world.
I would love that.
Matt, what the hell happened to Sea of Thieves? That's a great question. I think that it didn't really. I don't know. Actually, did you ever play Sea of Thieves, Sam?
Yeah, I think
it was a bit boring, wasn't it? It was like empty.
It just felt a little bit like it was one of those Minecraft things. Like if you liked what you were doing. And you were willing to do that again and again and again and again, that was fine. And it's like Destiny. Destiny has fans, and like even if you don't, because there's not a whole load of story in any of those, if you're fine to just keep doing the mechanics, then yeah, it's great. And they just updated the combat and everything, so there's still an audience. But it's one of those ones where I don't think it had quite the broad range of appeal that some people thought it might have. But it's still got its fans. It's one of those things where it's still got its player base. It's not dead. It's still got its fans, but it's just sort of, I think, smoothed off all of the people that were only there loosely, and now there's only the dedicated fan base there, sort of thing. Yeah,
it really did fade into the background. I played it for a couple of weeks, but I just found it a bit empty. It was fun doing it with your friends, but it's very much, go do similar types of missions and take it all back to your HQ, then do it again, take it back to your HQ. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, I kind of feel like I've done this now. So I can happily walk away from it and feel like I got my money's worth. Especially because it was free with Xbox Game Pass, right? You could just get Xbox.
Yeah, it's still free. I think it is perma free.
Well, yeah, I mean that's pretty good. You can't argue with that. And we'll do one more, which is going to be this one. And you haven't put a name, have you? No, why can't I see your name? Anyway, screw it. Do you think that Metro Exodus, being exclusive to the Epic Game Store, is going to start a trend down the line? I personally don't care. As long as I can buy it, who cares? Well, it did cause a lot of anger Because I don't get by with who, though. Who got angry? Like, you can still buy it. Everybody's got access to the Epic Games Store. So I don't really no one likes change. I understand that. But I was a bit confused. Like, you can be perturbed by it, but it's not like it's been cut off from you. You can still play it, and you can still, you can still buy it should you so wish. And I think anyone competing with Steam to a certain extent is good, because it means they'll have to be competitive too. And competition usually means consumers get a better deal.
Yeah, I don't really get it's one of those things. I think PC players have such different priorities in terms of like user reviews on the platform. I think that was one of the problems, because there's no user reviews on Epic Game Store as far as I'm aware, and DRM is a concern and stuff like that. But just for me, who's a console player, I didn't really from the outside see what the issue was. It's two sides of the coin, really. Like you say, I really like the fact that Epic is competing with Steam, but why would anyone that's big, anyone's got a big game, why would they look at what Metro did and the response they got and be like, yeah, I'd like to do that too? No one is going to be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It went really well for Metro Exodus. Like, everyone hated that decision. It's always controversy that I've seen so far. And yeah, I can't see anyone emulating that very quickly.
No, you're right. That's very, very true. Which is a shame, because I always think competition creates, like I say, a better environment for fans.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, it's only the start. Like, Metro Exodus might sell really well, and everyone might be like, you know what, I've heard it's very good, I'm going to buy it on Epic now. It's not actually a big deal.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just a knee-jerk reaction, so who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I think as long as it's still out there for people to get, that's fine. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. As always, which is the way, we'll see what they do. But yeah, bring the fight. I mean, no disrespect to Metro Exodus, but you can probably get away with doing it like a game like that, because I don't think it's going to sell crazy amounts. Like, I think it'd do well, but I don't think it's going to...
its niche fans, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but it's not like... I can't think of anything, but like a huge game. So it's a good game to experiment with. And like I say, I hope that it does as well as it possibly can, and everybody's happy. Nice and simple.
Absolutely.
Right, that's it. That's everything that's come out. Obviously, there's more games coming out next week that we'll talk about then. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure something crazy will happen. Like last week, Apex Legends came out, so...
Well, I mean, this Friday, everything's coming out. So.
Everything is coming out this Friday. And I even just know what else, I will make sure I play Apex Legends before next week, and we can take it from there. Right, Sam, thanks as always for joining me.
My pleasure.
And you can follow Sam on Twitter at Sam Bishop with 3 P's and a 1 in that name. I am at Simon316, the same Instagram. You can also watch this on YouTube, should you so wish. It's youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. And it is all supported by my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Simon316. Even $1 really helps, because it means I can just do this stuff. And it's like, don't worry about it, Miller. The time has been accounted for. So thank you to everyone who already does support me. I really appreciate it. And that is the deal. And yeah, make sure you subscribe if you're on iTunes. Give us 5 stars and all that stuff. And more importantly, tune in next week, tune in the week after that, and tune in every time you see the number go up on the episodes, because you know the new one is there. But thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again in a few days' time.